But you know what we're going to do today? We're going to try to avoid politics entirely.
Fair enough. Okay. Sounds good.
Alright, so we have Nandor Tanchos in the house!
I look quite different to him.
A little bit.
He's got dreadlocks. So.
A little bit different. So we have the Labour Party candidate for Central Auckland.
That's right, yeah. Auckland Central.
Are you going up against Chloe? You're going up against Damien? Who else are you going up against?
So there's a national guy. Mahesh. Yep.
He's coming on the show next week.
Oh, nice. And there's an ACT guy, Felix, who I went to university with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a few other sort of fringe, kind of minor candidates.
Is Nandor still in politics?
No, he's not. No.
All right, so perhaps just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Oscar Sims. I live in the city centre, just down the road from here.
Sorry, just Sims.
Sims.
But
yes.
you are a real person.
Yeah, yeah.
Not an NPC for Labour.
Just checking.
We've been having this debate internally in the campaign whether I should have Sim City or something printed on the shirts, but we think we might get some legal action over that, so we decided not to. But yeah, so I live downtown. I've lived here for the last couple of years. I lived in Ponsonby before that. I'm a software engineer by trade, so slightly different to the usual kind of lawyers and policy people who get into politics.
What does a software engineer do? Do you get into the back of the computer with like some wrenches and like, I mean, what to me engineering is bridges and grunty
that's
stuff.
That's right. Well, I mean that's what we would always get crap for at university from the real engineers, the civil engineers and the mechanical engineers. But we did do some real tough guy engineering as well. I mean, I learned to weld when I did my degree, which was a bizarre thing. But
So you welded software.
No, we did a sort of workshop week where we did welding and lathe
so
and all that
what
sort
is
of
a
stuff.
software engineer? I still don't know what a software... You're good at avoiding the point. You're going to be great in politics.
They weld the ones and the zeros.
The ones and zeros.
Code.
Yeah, just 1 0 1 0 all day. Yeah. So I work for a cinema software company, Vista. So down at City Works Depot. So we kind of write the back end for a cinema, all the ticketing and all that sort of stuff.
Wow. What attracted you to that?
Well, I'd always been interested in kind of computers and technology as a kid, and I was a little bit of a gamer as a young man.
How old are you? You still look like a young man.
I'm 25, yeah. So
that's young.
The youngest sort of two-tick candidate
don't
in this
you think
race.
You should wait till you've had some children and some life experience before you start talking to the grown-ups at Parliament?
Surprisingly, you're the first person during this whole campaign who's actually asked me that. I think people are...
Listeners will know that was a question posed to Chloe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very funny in the right circumstances.
Yeah. I think people, and she has blazed the trail a little bit, I think, for young people in politics. But this is the youngest seat in the country. I mean, we have the lowest average age, the most 25 to 35-year-olds in New Zealand. Big student population, 2 universities. So I think it's good that we have two young candidates. And Mahesh, I mean, he's youngish. He's in his 40s. He looks younger than that. I think he's got a good skincare routine or something.
You know what they call a journalist over 30?
What?
Redundant.
That's not good. That sounds like ageism.
Is it true that Helen Clark's ghost haunts the locker rooms of the Beehive?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I've never been into the locker rooms of the Beehive. I've only been to Parliament once, basically.
You never went to everyone goes to the locker rooms. Surely that's the place to go.
No, I went to
you get the goss.
Yeah, well, clearly. I mean, I missed in communicating with Helen Clark and getting some advice from her. But no, I went to the briefing room, the one that all the COVID stand-ups were held in. So I had a look around that.
Is it true that Winston Peters is actually dead, but nobody's brave enough to tell him?
He's coming back. He's on Journalist Road.
Yeah, so the
He's
Rolling
got his
Stones.
office. He's
I
he's
thought
at
this interview
5.
wasn't going to be about politics.
Well, how can it not be, but we're making it funny. And that's the point. We're going to ask those questions that, Hoskins and his fuck-up crew are too scared to ask.
Yeah, Sarah, what's your pre-prepared random question then?
I do have a pre-prepared one, actually. If you were to host a dinner party with 3 people, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Okay, so number one, the sort of cliche Labour Party politician answer, Michael Joseph Savage. Great leader, great
Was
prime
he the
minister.
one that was a train driver?
No, I don't think so.
Who was
No.
the train driver?
Did we have a train driver prime minister?
Yeah, but he was like a stationary train driver. Norman Kirk.
Norman Kirk. I didn't know that about Norman Kirk. I didn't realise he was
train driver.
There you go. That's cool.
Who are the other 2?
Well, maybe I have to have Norman Kirk now, so I can ask him about train driving. I mean, that sounds pretty fascinating.
It's a stationary train. It doesn't go anywhere.
The station leaves the train.
I don't know. Who else would I have? I'm getting... I don't know. I don't want to say another politician. This is thing that will just
dead
make
or
me
alive too.
Yeah,
No
dead or
politicians.
alive. No more politicians. I don't know. That's really tricky.
All right, dream band.
Dream
if you're
band.
going to set up, the ultimate band, living or dead, obviously David Bowie is lead singer. Who would you put on, like, drums or, co-singer maybe? Obviously got to have Bowie there, that's just a given. But, who would you choose?
I honestly have no idea.
You're totally unprepared for
I'm
this
totally
interview.
unprepared for this interview.
You're like, yeah,
I
doing an
I
interview.
went tax policy. Let's prep that. Let's prep crime. People want to talk about.
Okay. All right, let's break our rule about politics for a second. How come if I've got 2 or 3 jobs,
Yes.
I get taxed at different rates? Why can't it be one rate for the entire income? Because, so many people are cobbling together, a few hours here and a few hours there, and, which, like, as a Labour candidate, you must appreciate the strong links between the Labour Party and the original unions.
Totally.
So
those links still exist. Yeah. Absolutely.
Why can't we have one income, one tax?
Well, I think your income does end up getting calculated on the basis of your combined, income. But I think, there's a more fundamental question there, right? There's a more fundamental question there.
If you have your primary job,
Yeah, sure.
which for me is talking bullshit and being a wanker in general, and then I go and get a mainstream job, that secondary income is taxed at a secondary rate.
Sure. I'll be honest with you. I don't know.
You brought up
the
tax
calculation.
legislation.
That's true. I don't know.
You wanted to talk tax.
Yeah,
Okay, crime then.
yeah.
What's your stance on crime?
It's bad. But I think, we're on K Road at the moment. Great hotspot of Auckland nightlife, and I think, things have been a lot worse, and they're getting better. But they need to get better faster in terms of people feeling safe and being able to walk down the street. So I think
how did we do that practically?
Well, part of it is I think we need eyes on the street and we need to make sure build that sense of community. I think I was having a good conversation down the city centre with the people who run the Iotanga community space, and they were kind of saying there's a lot of interest groups that represent the people who come here for 8 hours a day, but not a lot of interest groups who are actually representing the people who live here 24 hours a day. And I think that's a big part of the kind of social dislocation that we've seen over COVID and happening now. So I think that's part of it. I think there's these big structural issues with the economy. We're talking about secondary income tax. People shouldn't have to cobble together an income from multiple jobs. We should be able to do something you're passionate about, like journalism or interviewing people, and it should be a job that pays the bills, and you should be able to afford to live somewhere that you can call your own. So that's been a big focus for me of kind of my advocacy and activism over the last few years with stuff like housing. Is these big questions in the economy at the moment that we need to solve.
Okay, if we're still on the tax questions,
Sure.
I was at the Auckland Central debate last Wednesday.
Yes,
And
yep.
Yeah, you might have seen me there. I saw you there,
Ah, yep.
obviously. You said towards the end, and you didn't get to like explain it further, that you wouldn't personally support a wealth tax. Did you want to explain why that's your position?
Yeah, so I mean, that was in the context of that question was about like, why isn't Labour supported a wealth tax? And there's sort of questions about like, is it politically feasible to implement that at the moment? What I would say is like, wealth taxes are not a very good way of funding baseline core social services. So there's examples overseas where basically rich people just leave the country; they just take their money with them, and so you get highly fluctuating amounts of tax revenue depending on the year, depending on the state of the economy. So it's not that good for funding core government services. I think one of the things about the Labour Party and about social democracy, which is the sort of system of beliefs that kind of, or values that underlie what we're doing, is it's about everyone paying their fair share, about a kind of broad-based tax system. That of course means that rich people shouldn't have opt-outs, and there should be enforcement of the tax laws. But when it comes to funding these kind of core government services, I think things like income tax are a better way of doing that.
So why are we failing? Why we're hemorrhaging good people overseas every day? They're Australians, and they're targeting our people, and fair enough too. They're getting fantastic offers to go offshore, but in the meantime, we're hemorrhaging doctors. We're hemorrhaging. We can't afford to pay firefighters.
Yeah.
We can't afford to pay our nurses.
Yeah.
What the hell's going wrong? I mean.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a housing shortage. I think there's an income shortage.
Well, I don't think there would be an income shortage if it was more affordable to live in New Zealand at the moment, right?
Well, it wouldn't be an issue if people had more money either. So there's
Sure,
both sides
sure.
of the coin.
Sure. But I mean, part of that, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? They're sort of effectively the same thing.
Well,
if stuff's cheaper, your money goes further, right?
It does matter if you're on the breadline and
Totally.
You're counting your pennies.
Totally. But if those pennies can buy a meal instead of what they buy now, then that's that's the sort of same thing. And I think a lot of that does go back to our housing crisis. I think we didn't build enough houses for decades and decades and decades. And that's everything. That's private housing, that's state housing. We kind of neglected that. And I think the result of that has been that we had, the worst housing affordability crisis in the world.
We should build the best houses in the freaking world.
We should. We absolutely should. Yeah. And when we're not, and we haven't been for decades, and we're now just, in the last few years catching up with that. But, there's more work to do.
Is there a danger though, especially if we keep branching out? I mean, going through Pocono recently, I mean, that used to be what was all once fertile farmland is now residential property. I mean, can we afford to be turning productive land into residential space?
No, I don't think we can, and I don't think we should. I think the choices we've got in housing are we can build up, and we can build, smart, good urban design, good light proofing, good soundproofing, or we could build these ugly subdivisions out, on that fertile land that you're talking about.
So,
and I think that's
it's interesting talking about, I think you just mentioned sustainable housing.
Yeah.
And Germany, for example, stipulate in the building codes that you must have, solar heating. I mean, our reputation of being clean and green is a bit of a myth when you look at what other countries are doing to create sustainable, affordable housing.
Yeah, totally. And I think the Europeans, they do it pretty well. They have a much higher percentage of people who rent. But actually what that means is, that renting is more pleasant. And it's,
do you rent?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Are you married?
No.
Do you have a girlfriend, boyfriend?
No, I don't. No, I'm single.
A dog? A cat?
I can't. You can't have pets in apartments.
You could have a cat, couldn't you?
Nah, not according to my landlord.
You could change the law one day.
I could change. Someone should run for office and do that.
They're running that now, indoor pets to save the birds. They're trying to convince people to keep their pets
indoors. Yeah, well, if an apartment, that wouldn't be so much of a problem.
As I understand it, the cats kill far fewer native birds compared to rats and stoats and other feral predators.
Maybe we should keep the rats and stoats inside too then.
We basically do with the quality of our housing stock at the moment.
So, what was it that made you sign up to the Labour Party? What was it that made you go, yeah, I want to get involved with this?
So, I mean, I talked about housing, and that was kind of my introduction to kind of activism and politics. I think it's about the idea of, you know, politics is about levers, right? It's about, like, you know, we have a set of policy options, set of levers we can pull, and we want to pull the biggest one to make the biggest difference. And I think the Labour Party is that. It's progressive, but it's the big centre-left party of New Zealand, and it's kind of got this long history of being, you know, leading the way, I think, on a lot of progressive issues.
All right, if you weren't going to vote Labour this year,
Sure.
who would you endorse?
It's always a dangerous question. But probably the Greens, right? I mean, they're the other sort of major left-wing party in New Zealand.
Do you think it's been a pretty good coalition? I mean, to be fair, the Ardern government has led us through some pretty big catastrophes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing about the Greens, though. It's never really been a coalition. They've never been in government. They've never had government ministers. So, like, I mean, they've supported Labour governments. They've voted for our policies, but you know, they haven't been inside the tent, and that might happen after this election.
Do you think
we
it's
don't
going
know.
to be a tough race?
Oh, absolutely, the toughest. Yeah. I mean, you know, I needed to swat up on my dream band members, clearly.
And tax law, apparently.
And tax law.
What is your heritage?
So I'm actually a dual citizen. So my mum's family is from Finland. So for people who have been asking me why I have the flag pin on my billboard picture, that's why. Yeah, so kind of that's why I'm so pasty and you know.
And a high tolerance for vodka.
Yeah, well, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
What's your connection to K Road? Do you have any specific K Road stories? You know, that night when you're out late one night drinking.
Probably not that.
One that's going to come back to haunt you once you're in Parliament.
Definitely, but probably not appropriate for talking about publicly on a podcast.
Are there any skeletons in your closet you
not
want to
really.
talk about now?
No, not really.
What is your history with K Road though?
I come here a lot actually. So my good mate Scoot, shout out Scoot, he lives here, and he's been involved in the kind of housing space with me for a long time, and. So we come often to art shows pretty regularly.
Art shows a sponsor.
There you go. There you go. Shout out. Got the sponsor in there.
Well
yes.
done. Yes. And the crowd goes mild. Thank you very much. Speaking of sponsors, a prime opportunity to thank our new sponsors that have come on board to Patreon. Thank you. We've got nearly 4,000 downloads now. There is a cost to production. Obviously, we don't pay our guests or our staff, but, you know, we do have drugs and alcohol to procure. No, seriously, there is a cost to running this, and if you do enjoy the content that we're producing, please, just, you know, a couple of dollars. If you feel like you're getting more benefit out of this than a cup of coffee, couple of dollars, and we can continue producing awesome, entertaining, engaging interviews with people like our current guest. You just won't get anywhere else, let's face it.
Shout out to my brother who signed up to the Patreon yesterday.
Shout out
his name is Leonard.
David Leonard. Thank you, David Leonard. Thank you, Glenn Mitchell.
I actually met one of your big fans last night at a campaign event. Without prompting, she was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of the Krd Chronicle. You know, I oppose National's cell phone ban in schools because I wouldn't be able to listen to the Krd Chronicle in class."
It was just pointless.
Shout out to her.
Honestly, the cell phone ban, is that the best they can come up with?
I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on over there, but we're running our own race. You know, whatever.
Hang on, I got a text coming in. No, I'm kidding. You know, I mean, honestly, is that the best they can come? I mean, I know it's very difficult for a government to traditionally secure a third time in office, but I mean, Labour would have to pretty much lose this election, wouldn't they?
Well, we're going to win, so you know it's irrelevant. We're going to. You know, we're going to campaign hard. We're going to win every vote, and yeah. I mean, you know, yeah.
What's your favourite thing about the National Party?
They give us, yeah, exactly. They're in opposition. They give us some competition.
I was going to say the colour blue.
Blue is a good colour. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Do you think maybe one day Prime Minister?
Me? Shit, no.
How do you? I mean, I'm a big fan of Jacinda Ardern. I'm a big fan of Chloe Swarbrick. I even liked Jenny Shipley and Roger. Mike Moore was fantastic. There's been some really great leaders in this country, and there's also been some really subversive politicians as well. So, I mean.
Yeah, look, we don't talk about the fourth Labour government.
Look, that's what it is, neoliberalism, we're suffering through that.
Yeah.
And, it's not the same society it was in 84 either. So, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? Like, if there were no barriers?
Well, I mean, to your point, we've got to rebuild social democracy, rebuild the heart of the Labour Party, get those kind of progressive values going. I mean, the last bloke who was a Labour candidate was one of the architects of the fourth Labour government and neoliberalism. So I'm hoping I can do better than that in this campaign.
Don't you feel the problem with ideologically driven politics is that pretty much you're taking a position on any issue before it even becomes an issue? Wouldn't it like a more banquet type style approach to politics be more efficient, where you go, you know what, the right's got a good idea over here, but like rather than worrying about left and right and centre or anarchist or speaking of which, I'm starting the Trinity Party, but I mean, don't you think that we could be more collaborative in our politics?
I totally think we can, absolutely. I mean, when you guys asked this question to the Young Greens co-conveners when they were on, I was listening to that last night, and I think I'd give a reasonably similar answer, which was like, you have your values and you have the things that drive you, and you have, for me, it's I want a fairer society, I want, equality, etc. And then you go, well, how do we build on that? How do we achieve that? What are the policy levers that we can pull to get there? And I mean, sometimes they do come from unexpected places. We tried to do a bipartisan agreement with National on housing. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well. They pulled out of it. But that's,
at least there was the intent.
Yeah, but there's the intent there, right? And you can work with other parties, and MMP is all about that in some sense, right?
Not
it's
that different,
friends.
really.
I don't know. I think there's daylight between left and right in
the end, though,
politics.
does much really change, in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, like just to add to that, does it become more theoretical than practical?
I don't think so. I mean, you think about like the welfare state that the first Labour government built. You think about, the public housing program that we started on. These are all things that are now sort of part of our day-to-day lives that we don't really think about. Superannuation or, this has been compared to the 2005 election a lot, this election that we're having at the moment. And, the big campaign promise from the Labour Party then was taking interest off student loans. And that was something that was huge. That's something that students today... Move. Yeah, exactly. And, people don't think about that now. Well, we did already in this term of government, right? We made the first year fees free, and trades training and apprenticeships for tens of thousands of Kiwis. So, education's important. Yeah,
it is totally important. And, I also feel there's an obligation by society to invest in people coming up through the ranks rather than sinking people with massive debts before they even graduate. Often as individuals, we feel pretty powerless. We feel like our vote isn't going to make a difference. What would be your comment to people that say, hey, I'm not significant, what do I know? And how do people get more involved with politics?
Well, I think a good way to get started is if you've got an issue that you really care about, then you should find a group that cares about that issue in the same way that you do. So for me, that was housing.
Or just write to your local MP.
Yeah, or write to your local MP, exactly. But find some like-minded people who kind of care about an issue, get involved with that, build a bit of a sense of community, and then take it from there. I mean, it's proof, I think, that anyone can kind of get involved in New Zealand politics when you look at this race and you look at the fact that I'm 25 and I think Chloe's she's 29 or something, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. What was your background like?
My upbringing.
Yeah.
Pretty middle class, right? So, I've been quite lucky, I would say.
What'd your parents do?
My dad's an ad man and my mum's a teacher. So,
nice.
What's the issue that got you into politics?
Well, as I've said, it's definitely housing, right? So, member of Gen Z, we've been locked out of the housing market. Renting for the last few years has been painful and annoying, and we need to fix that. So, is
that also like homelessness?
Yeah, absolutely. And living in Auckland Central, I think you see more visible homelessness in this electorate than just about any in the country, and that's tragic. Houselessness, and I'm really I'm pleased with the work we've done on Grays Ave. 276 new state homes opening.
That is great. I'm looking forward to getting a tour of that. It's
you should. It's beautiful.
For those
beautiful
that don't know it, it's the Grays Ave complex, which was, it had its day. I'm sure at the time it was built and designed, it was probably state of the art and fantastic. But it became a den of iniquity. And now it's beautiful. They've got gardens. They've got shared communal spaces. I think it's a great model for community housing going forward.
Absolutely. And, that's what I want to see lots more of. That's, I think, a drop in the bucket in terms of solving the crisis. And so, we're building more state housing than we did since the 1950s. And let's go even further. Let's keep doing that. Because I think it's huge for
Okay, just before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, if people want to split their vote, and obviously you want the vote for the MP.
Yeah, I'm after both ticks, but...
Obviously you're after both ticks, but if people do choose to vote strategically, are you going to show your cards there? Or?
Yeah, I can give you a tactical voting line. Look, Chloe Swarbrick, she's getting back in anyway, right? So she's third on the Green Party list. So
I love your confidence.
She is. They're polling at 11%. She's third on the list. She's getting back in. Yeah, she's getting back in. So if you want to vote for me, you get 2 young MPs in Auckland Central for the price of 1. So there you go. That's my pitch.
And if Chloe got pregnant, we'd have 3.
True.
Hey, any final remarks, team?
Thanks for coming and talking.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this more than any other media interview you're going to do.
It's a lot different to the other ones.
You're lucky I saved my Batman questions. Honestly, we could have sat here and talked the whole half hour about Batman, but maybe another time.
Another time, absolutely.
Another time. Look, I wish you best in the upcoming, what is it? The local body elections?
General election this
General
one?
election.
Yeah, the big one.
I really should pay attention to what we're doing. No, I really do appreciate it. I really do wish you all the best. And tune in next week where we will have Mahesh.
We
haven't confirmed that yet, actually, but he is going to come on eventually.
I thought
he confirmed.
Well, he's confirmed for an interview, but not for a date. So
tell him he's a coward if he's not coming on.
Oh, well, I'll tell him you said. What's your question for Mahesh? When are you going to quit?
No, I want to know about a skincare routine because he looks so much younger than he is. Seriously, he's in his early 40s, but he looks like he looks younger than me. What's he doing?
Crazy.
So get him in on that question. Ask him for me.
All right, thank you very much. Another exciting episode. If you do love what we're doing, remember, a couple of bucks a month on Patreon, and we can make a big difference. We can eat.
A good difference.
We can eat. Well, at least I can. Fuck these guys. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me.